Vasudev Rao is 51 years old. Every evening, he walks across the campus of the Indian Institute of Science, goes to his office, and hits a wall. For 4 years, he has been trapped inside a single mathematical problem. His failure isn't dramatic anymore. It has become a routine. Filter coffee in a steel tumbler, a whirring ceiling fan, and the quiet acceptance that the shape of his days is defined by a struggle he is losing. This is the core of the problem, Halvorson's conjecture. You take a whole number, run it through a formula, and land on a point on a circle. Do that thousands of times, and the points look random. But mathematically, if you take any arc and measure that gap between the expected points and the actual points, Halvorson claimed the variance never exceeds a specific precise limit. Vasudev can prove the gap stays within double that limit, but closing that final factor of 2 is a nightmare. The points can cluster in a wide arc or bunch up in a narrow one, and proving they behave at every scale simultaneously is where every approach anybody has tried goes to die. Late one Thursday night, a colleague mentions he is giving up. He tells Vasudev there are machines for this now, and he's relieved. Out of pure irritation and expecting nothing, Vasudev opens a terminal. He types in the definitions and the failed notes from the last 4 years and feeds them to the machine, because the machine doesn't know him and has nothing to protect. The machine doesn't fail. It asks a question. Then it asks another. Over 2 hours, they go 4 rounds of intense mathematical dialogue. Then, the machine reaches back to an obscure paper Vasudev published in 2021, the kind you write to get a definition out of your head, and sets it against a theorem from a corner of analysis Vasudev has never worked in. By 1:30 in the morning, the bookkeeping is done. Vasudev goes home, leaving the system to finalize the work. But as he tries to sleep, a terrifying reality sets in. What happens to a person's identity when a machine can silently accomplish in one night what cost them 4 years of their life? On Friday morning, Vasudev wakes up to a file of 3,900 lines. Every step closes. Halvorson's conjecture is solved, and the system marks the completion of his life's work with the same green checkmark that appears when a parcel has been delivered. For 30 years, Vasudev's weight in the world rested on one fact. He could tell whether a proof was true. That human authority was the reason journals in Copenhagen sent him manuscripts and waited months for his reply. Now, that authority has gone out like a bulb. There is a green tick where it used to be. He calls John Asium, a colleague in Norway, hoping to find a shared sense of loss. But Asium is already cheerful. He tells Vasudev he's been running his own problems through these machines since March, and he signed a public statement in Leiden months ago accepting the new reality. Asheim has already made his peace. While Vasudev was standing at a blackboard being defeated by a factor of 2, his peer had already moved on, treating his own past errors as minor chores. Vasudev realizes the professional world he understood has quietly settled into a new shape without him. Deep in the machine's proof, on page 7, the system utilizes a lemma that reverses decades of mathematical assumptions. It uses the rule as a simple tool, completely unaware that it is violating a principle the field has held as absolute since 1994. Since the 90s, every researcher assumed that the bunching of points at a small scale and the bunching at a large scale were independent. You had to rule out the conspiracy at one scale, then move to the next. That dividing line is where every previous approach died. The machine saw through it. It proved that the conspiracies at different scales are actually 2 faces of a single object. The wall Vasudev fought for 4 years never existed. It was a shadow, cast by a structure nobody had bothered to name. Mathematicians have always believed that a proof cannot be separated from the person who struggles for it. We want the version where the man looks away from the camera because the weight of the discovery is too much to carry. We want a proof we can tie to a human face. The machine can establish that theorem is true, but it has no idea what that truth means. It possesses the brute force to solve the equation, but only a human has the taste to realize it just proved that the field's defining principle was an illusion. Later that morning, Vasudev's student, Meghana, arrives. She looks at the boards and his tired face and tells him the truth. He shouldn't grieve the AI's speed. He should grieve the 4 years he spent walking around a wall that wasn't there. Meghana is 26, and she demands a problem to spend her 20s on. Vasudev hesitates. He knows that if he gives her a good problem, it might be solved by a machine in an afternoon, before she even finishes her coursework. If he gives her a safe one, she will never feel the rush that makes the life worth living. He decides to make a wager on the human spirit. He goes to the storeroom and retrieves a folder untouched since 2006. It contains an impossibly deep problem his own mentor carried for 40 years and never solved. He puts it on the desk and tells her he doesn't know if he's giving her a gift or a bill. Meghana takes the folder. She chooses the struggle. In a world of artificial efficiency, the act of choosing a problem that might defeat you is the only way to remain human. That evening, Vasudev visits his former mentor, KSR. The old man is 88 now. He is courteous and entirely himself, but his memory loops. Every 8 minutes, the conversation resets, and he asks Vasudev what he is working on. Vasudev, standing up, and explains the entire discovery. He describes the shadow, the machine, and the fact that a girl of 26 has taken up KSR's old, unsolved problem. For a moment, the old man understands. He says, "Good," and there is a flicker of lucidity and pride in his eyes. They sit quietly as the crows fly over the terrace. Then the inevitable reset happens. The old man turns to him, perfectly polite, and asks Vasudev once again what he is working on. Years ago, this second asking would have been a burden, but today Vasudev pulls his chair a little closer. He has spent the last 24 hours realizing that the result doesn't belong to him anymore. He tells the old man the entire story again, from the very beginning, slowly, leaving nothing out. The machine can find the answer, but the act of leaning in to share the journey, over and over for as long as it takes, is the one thing the machine will never understand.